The first thing people trusted about Robert Hale was his confidence. It wasn't loud or flashy. It lived in the way he walked into a room and didn't rush, the way his eyes met yours without apology, the way silence bent around him instead of pushing back. At 52, Robert was a self-made real estate magnate, the kind whose name was quietly attached to buildings people passed every day without ever wondering who owned them. Apartments. Offices. Parking structures. The city rested partly in his hands, even if it never knew it. From the balcony of his high-rise condo, Robert watched the early morning light crawl over rooftops like it belonged to him. Below, the city was waking up, delivery trucks, commuters, street vendors setting up carts. He used to love this hour, when the world felt obedient and small. Now, it only reminded him how alone he was. His phone buzzed constantly during the day, but at night it stayed silent. No missed calls. No one asking if he was okay. His success had built walls taller than the buildings he owned. Robert had been married once. It didn't last. He had been a father once, too, in theory. His daughter lived on the other side of the country with a life he funded but didn't belong to. He told himself distance was necessary, that providing was the same as caring. Over time, that lie grew comfortable. On the other side of town, far from balconies and security desks, Lila Thompson tied her shoes carefully before stepping out into the cold. The laces were frayed, and she'd learned to double knot them so they wouldn't give up on her halfway through the day. At 41, Lila's life ran on routines that left little room for mistakes. If she missed a bus, she missed a shift. If she missed a shift, rent became a problem. If rent became a problem, everything else followed. She worked nights at a nursing home, days at a grocery store deli, and weekends wherever someone needed help. Her hands smelled faintly of disinfectant and food no matter how much she washed them. She had buried her mother 5 years earlier and her younger sister 2 years after that. Loss didn't shock her anymore, it just stayed, quiet and heavy. Yet Lila carried herself with a kind of calm that surprised people. She said thank you. She looked people in the eye. She helped strangers without announcing it. Compassion wasn't something she practiced to feel good. It was something that made survival bearable. Robert and Lila lived in the same city, but their realities never touched. Robert donated to shelters he never visited. Lila cleaned offices owned by people she would never meet. Their lives moved in parallel lines, never intersecting, until one decision, small at the time, changed everything. The deal was supposed to be routine. A redevelopment project. A neighborhood that city planners called underutilized and residents called home. Robert approved it without visiting the area, trusting reports and projections. It wasn't personal. It was business. But business has consequences, even when you don't see them. 3 months later, a factory fire on one of his properties made the news. Workers injured. Safety violations uncovered. Investigations followed, deeper than Robert expected. Corners cut by managers he trusted. Documents signed by him without careful review. Lawsuits piled up. Investors panicked. Banks froze accounts pending review. Robert had survived storms before, but this one felt different. It didn't respond to confidence. It didn't care about reputation. It moved slowly, methodically, stripping away layers of protection until all that remained was accountability. By the time the city seized several of his properties, Robert's name no longer opened doors. Friends became cautious. Partners distanced themselves. His lawyers stopped sounding reassuring. He sold assets to stay afloat, then sold more to delay the inevitable. The condo went last. The day Robert packed his things, he moved through the empty rooms like a stranger. Every echo felt accusatory. He stood on the balcony one final time, the city unchanged, indifferent to his fall. For the first time in decades, he had no plan. The shelter was louder than he expected. Too many voices. Too many smells. Too much reality pressed together without space to breathe. Robert stayed only one night. Pride pushed him back onto the street before sunrise. Cold taught him faster than any courtroom ever had. Hunger humbled him. Silence judged him. He learned how invisible a man could become when he no longer looked successful. One evening, sitting on the steps of a closed storefront, Robert noticed a woman struggling with a broken grocery bag. Cans rolled across the sidewalk. People stepped around them. He hesitated, then stood, joints stiff, dignity already thin. Lila looked up as he handed her a can without speaking. Their eyes met briefly. No gratitude speeches. No explanations. Just a shared moment of acknowledgement. Neither of them knew it yet, but that quiet exchange, simple, human, was the first thread in a bond that would test loyalty, expose truths long buried, and force both of them to confront what wealth really meant when everything else was gone. And the city, loud and uncaring, continued on as if nothing important had just begun.